for what this call is going to look like. I'm gonna open this up, introduce like the topic and some calls to action. And then after that, we're gonna spend the bulk of our time with our speaker, Jalil Muntaqim, and then we're gonna make calls. We're gonna spend actually the last portion of the power hour today making calls, sending emails to elected officials and tweets, and then closing out with some resources and toolkits and ways to take action. So again, we have started these power hours, I think back in November, to jam the phone lines for Palestine. We kind of started these in response to the Shut It Down for Palestine campaign, which was launched at the March on Washington in DC. This has been really an avenue for us to gather people virtually on a weekly basis to disrupt business as usual for our elected representatives. So of course, these calls are a part of a large network of actions for Palestine. We've seen millions of people around the world take to the streets, demonstrate, organize walkouts, sit-ins, car caravans, pickets, and direct actions targeting the political offices, businesses, and workplaces that are funding, investing in, and collaborating with Israeli genocide and occupation. And we know that every day the genocide on Gaza is continuing without pause or interruption. Every day entire buildings are still being blown up, their inhabitants are martyred or scarred with lifelong injuries. All survivors are made instantly homeless, and millions are starving due to the Zionist-backed US-imposed siege on Gaza and genocide. And we know that this is a US genocide as much as it is an Israeli genocide of the Palestinian people. Thousands are still fleeing from Zionist warplanes, risking death to get to quote-unquote safe zones without any real guarantee of survival. Every Palestinian in Gaza is in mourning for their loved ones, for their homes, and for their lives before the genocide. So it's our responsibility to not slow down at any point. We cannot become complacent. We must continue this fight as long as these injustices continue in our names and through our tax dollars. So as the genocide continues, we cannot get tired. We are going to continue to struggle for justice every day. And on March 2nd, there's an international call to action for millions across the world to march for Gaza. So we really encourage you to take to the streets on March 2nd. Find a protest in your city. If there isn't one, organize one. Right? Gaza is facing famine, its hospitals are besieged, there's threats of ground invasion, and Israel is continuing its onslaught on over the 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. And what we have done through our mass movement for Palestine is we've effectively isolated the US and Israel on the world stage. There are growing internal divisions and heightened political pressure on Israel and the United States. So it's time for us to push harder. And our mobilizations in this moment especially can be more decisive than ever. So we need to show our full strength now to really push for a lasting ceasefire, to push for an end to the siege on Gaza and end to US military funding. So all out in the streets on March 2nd, all out for Rafah, all out for Gaza. We're putting out the call to stop the genocide. And if we go to the next slide, we can show you, if you go to the shutitdownforpalestine.com or .org website, you can endorse the call to action. You can find a protest near you and find toolkits for different sectors who are interested in organizing around Palestine. So we really encourage you to take to the streets on March 2nd. And we can show you all a quick video of the call to action as well before we get started. And yeah, if we want to click on that one. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, one moment here. I think I need to enable the sound.
While Kat does that, I'm just going to say that we know that the majority of the public is in support of a ceasefire. So the goal here is to force the political class to take positions that actually reflect their constituents. And over the weeks, we've been able to drive thousands of calls and emails to elected officials during these phone zaps. And we've been hearing directly from staffers that the calls and emails are creating a lot of pressure for elected officials who are completely inundated with our relentless calls and emails and protests demanding that they push for a ceasefire, to stop arming Israel, to end military funding, and to reinstate funds for UNRWA. So these power hours have also been an easy way to activate newer organizers, to increase the impact of our actions. And you can use the resources that we share in your own cities with your own organizations to organize your own local power hours to pressure your elected reps. So we have toolkits we'll be sharing and information on how to organize your own local phone banks wherever you live. We highly encourage you to do that because it's a good way to gather community and a good way to offer a concrete action that anyone can participate in. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Kat.
Ripped by famine. The Israelis continue their bombardment on the entire Gaza Strip, and hospitals and critical infrastructure continue to be besieged. And now the Israelis are threatening a ground invasion in Rafah unless a deal is reached before Ramadan. This means we have limited time. On March 2nd, we must be out in the millions for Gaza. We must be out in the millions for Palestine. Visit shutitdownforpalestine.org, find a protest in your city, organize one if there isn't one. We must make our voices heard. We must take to the streets and ensure that the people of Palestine know that we have their back.
All right, so before we get into it with our speaker today, I just want to give a little bit of